and welcome to another episode of the Blues Focus podcast, airing every week on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm Kieran, your host for this episode. Joining me this week, I've got Elliot with me. Going to get straight into it, the more positive of the two games we've got to discuss, which was the Millwall 0-0 at home. Elliot, what stands out for you in that game?
I think the fact that we actually managed to get a point stands out. I think it's about as much of a nailed-on 0-0 as you can get in the Championship. Millwall, I think they're starting to struggle now, struggling for goals. They had a few players out, which was fortunate for us, attacking-wise. And yeah, I think both teams just cancelled each other out. I really don't know what else to say about it, to be honest. You?
There's not much you can say. Well, I'm with you. The most memorable thing about it is the fact that we've got a point and we can put that one to bed and not have to worry about it. I'm just glad that for once we didn't lose at home to Millwall, because they always seem to turn us over. Our place, from what I can remember.
Yeah, I think last season, they beat us last season. Oh no, they drew 1-1 last season.
I think it's also just the fact that I don't like losing to Rowett or any other former manager, Monk, for example, as well.
Well, we won't be losing to Monk anytime soon. So
we say that now. God knows where he's going to rear his head next. But now, we'll swiftly move on, and unfortunately, we've got to discuss in some depth Tuesday night's game against Barnsley, 2-1 defeat at home. Start with the positives, I suppose. Another goal to Scott Hogan's name now. Just again, unfortunately, it counts for nothing in the game. But give me your thoughts on what you've seen on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, as you just touched on with Hogan, I think he's definitely one player, or one of a very few small select number of players that escaped from Tuesday night with any small amount of credit. I think he got one opportunity and he took it, so fair play to him. And obviously, we're all hoping now that he's back on the goal trail. In terms of the performance in general, it was awful. Barnsley just wanted it more, you could tell. Tactically, they got it spot on. Played a very similar formation to us with three at the back. They played the two forwards up top, and they just pressed us from minute one. But didn't give us any time on the ball at the back. And unfortunately, with our centre halves, they're not the best at distributing the ball. We just couldn't keep hold of it. San Jose was quiet. He didn't get around the pitch as much as he could. I think he just got outnumbered in the end. And their manager got it spot on. They doubled up on Sanchez every time he got on the ball in some in dangerous areas. There was two of their players on him. We just couldn't get anything going at all.
It's still, looking at it now, fairly difficult to put your finger on what formation we actually went with on Tuesday night. You look at Riley McGree and Lecco, for example. Could you tell me with any certainty, really, that you know where they were supposed to be playing? No. Because these are supposed to be game-changing players. Your McGrees and your Leccos. They're up that end of the pitch, and McGree's meant to be a creator, and Lecco's obviously, he, as we touched on before, coming online, he's got to be, in a way, our sort of answer to Jamie Vardy. You want him facing the opposition goal when he gets the ball. You want him running in behind. But every time I've seen him on Tuesday night, he was kind of in that gap between the midfield and the forwards. The forward, should I say. He didn't really seem to have a clue himself as to what he was supposed to be doing. But at this stage in the season, surely now the players have got to have a better idea and a better understanding of what they're supposed to be doing out there. And that does rest ultimately with Karanka to give them instructions. So where do we go from there, really? How do we move forward?
Uh, for me, I've said it for a while, and I think there's definitely a growing concern for certain players and their performances at the moment. I mean, I would highlight one player, and that's Christian Pedersen at left back. He's not a left wing back for a start, and you know, the amount of times I saw him caught out of position, having to run back, and then that tired, lazy challenge for the penalty, which there's nothing in it really much, but he still swung. He still swung the foot at it. He was nowhere near the ball. He's just asking for trouble. His distribution as well. It just doesn't, for me, just doesn't offer anything. I struggle to think of one cross into the box or one anything from Pedersen in the attacking third that he contributed. So why is he playing in that position? We've certainly got to go back to the 4 at the back for the next game. I can't see how Karanka can persist with playing the 5 at the back system when we haven't got the personnel for it.
You say Pedersen, and the thing is as well is it doesn't matter whether it's it's coming to the end of the game, he's tired or whatever the excuse may be. If you dangle a leg out, the attacker is going to go over. It doesn't matter how much contact; it can be minimal contact. They hit the deck, that the penalty is getting given. We are in some ways blessed and some ways unfortunate in the Championship. We don't have VAR overseeing these decisions. Could you imagine how much we'd get screwed over with VAR for a start off? I mean, we don't have the best of luck as it is. So, but Pedersen, you can highlight. San Jose doesn't look like the player we expected him to be at this point. He's had his good moments, but he looks way off where we need him to be at Championship level. Again, McGree and Lecco, as I mentioned, they don't really seem to have an idea as to what was actually needed from them. Lecco, as you mentioned before recording, his body language was completely off on Tuesday night. And I think what we've seen from him on Tuesday, with the exception of his part in the Hogan goal, kind of tells you, or tells the fans, the answer they needed when they say, why isn't Lecco in the team? Well, that's why. But you could point the finger at 8 or 9 of the players that were out on that pitch on Tuesday night. Like I say, I think Hogan escapes a bit of criticism purely for the fact he got a goal. Sanchez, completely out of position again. Doesn't belong in the middle of that park. Doesn't belong so deep. And when you've got no options for him being doubled up, it completely takes him out of the game. I just really struggle to see a quick fix for it. I know we say it's a long-term project with Karanka, but there's got to be something that changes out there now to start picking up some results, because we are really, really starting to slip slowly towards that bottom 3 again.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about some of the players you pinpointed there. Like, for example, San Jose. I mean, he's coming from La Liga. I don't particularly think that he was playing a huge amount of games at the back end of last season. He was hugely out of favour last season. So he's not, and he's coming into a far quicker league. Let's be honest, the Championship is a quicker league than La Liga. He's acclimatising. Sanchez, I think he's a really bright player for us, and we just got to get him in the right areas. He's not in the right areas at the moment. He's not being played in the right position. He needs to be affecting the game in the final third. And against Barnsley, he's picking up the ball inside our own half or on the halfway line. And it's just really difficult to affect a game, especially when you're a player like Sanchez to have any joy. And in terms of Lecco, like we said, and like you just pointed out, his body language, it's quite clear that he wasn't happy, he wasn't comfortable. He needs to feed off someone, and we've got the perfect player at the club that he can feed off. And he didn't start the other night, but I'd like to think that when Lecco gets his chance again, he'll be paired up with Djukovic and have someone that he can actually feed off.
You mentioned Djukovic, and obviously we've discussed previously on the last podcast, we said obviously Djukovic brings a lot more to the team than just goals. And again, that was evident on Tuesday night in the fact that Barnsley knew if they put a bit of pressure on us at the back, they pressure us from they defend from the front, didn't they? And our out ball is always just a diagonal long ball up the pitch from Roberts, Dean, or Clark Soler. But when you've got Djukovic sat on the bench, who are you targeting with that ball? Because Hogan's not going to win it against a big centre half, and well, God knows who the wingers actually were. Sometimes Lecco or McGree, they're not going to hold the ball up. They're not going to win a flick on. Or if Djukovic is your man that you play to in that situation. And you had fans celebrating the fact that he was on the bench on Tuesday night, which baffles me because we don't have a way of playing without him in the starting 11. We don't know any differently than to just lump the ball up to him. We've done it for years. And that's what makes me also worry about this signing of Halilovic. Great creative player, put him in the side, but we ain't going to play to his strengths either. We're not all of a sudden going to start knocking the ball around on the deck and letting him take on a man and these fancy through balls and what have you. It's not going to happen, is it? Realistically, he needs to be in that. Djukovic needs to be in that starting 11. And like you say, we might see the best of Lecco when he's in a 2 alongside Djukovic and not left to kind of float wherever he crops up at the time, really. But then,
yeah, I think I agree, and this is going to be a conundrum for Karanka, because if he wants to play Lecco alongside Djukovic, then he's going to struggle to fit in a number 10, because he's not going to play. If he plays 4 at the back, he's going to have to play 2 defensive midfielders, and then you need some width because you need protection for the right back and the left back. So he's not going to have a number 10 in there. So I think if he's going to play a number 10, it's going to have to be Lecco on his own, or Scott Hogan on his own. Because as we've seen, Djukovic on his own is a lone striker. It's very difficult to watch. Don't get me wrong, we're really difficult to watch at the moment, but that is really tough to watch. Duke up top on his own, it can be really, really difficult, especially away from home. If the teams are pinning us back, we just haven't got that out ball. Don't get me wrong, he can hold the ball up quite well at times, but if he's up against physical defenders as well, he can struggle. But yeah, one other thing I want to touch on, and we've seen it quite numerous times so far already this season, is the fact that when we go a goal up, we become so negative, and it's that mentality which I think is driving the supporters mad at the moment. The fact that when we get a goal, we're not looking to get another goal and to make things, to secure the points, and we're just sitting back. We're making negative substitutions, and inviting the pressure. And one thing that stood out for me was when Barnsley got the penalty and they scored the equaliser. They didn't celebrate. They ran. They got the ball. They wanted to win the game.
Well, they could tell they wanted to go, and they knew that we was there for the taking.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned that in the build-up to Barnsley's, in the lead-up to the penalty, the camera, as they crossed halfway, spanned over and stood on the touchline waiting to come on was Ivan Sunjic and George Friend at 1-0 with, 20 minutes left, just under. We should be... Barnsley were going for it at 1-0. We should have been looking to exploit the space. We should have been looking to go and get that second goal and kill the game. The opportunities were going to be there for the likes of Lecco to get in behind, and we just did absolutely nothing with that opportunity. We knew when Karanka came in, his style of play, the way he wants to go, he's a very defensive tactician. But there comes a point when he's got to accept and realise that one goal probably isn't enough for us to win a game. It's not with the way we're playing at the minute, not with the defence we've got, and we can't rely on just one goal to get 3 points every week. You've seen it against Barnsley now, Wickham. We've threw a lead away at Stoke, I think was 1-0, wasn't it? Nearly bottled it against Huddersfield. That result looks better and better every day, considering they went and got the equaliser and we still went to go and find a winner. Because I haven't seen that sort of character from the side since. So it's, like you say, the substitutions are far too negative.
Yeah, and like you just highlight the Huddersfield game. I mean, that was just a really topsy-turvy game, and previous to Djukovic volleying that winner in, Huddersfield were down our end and nearly grabbed the winner themselves. So that was one of those games. But the Barnsley game was just incessant pressure from our opponents, particularly in the second half. It was really frustrating to watch. I think the supporters they've just had enough of watching that, and I don't think many supporters would begrudge us losing a game if we're endeavouring to actually win a match. We're actually being positive. We're obviously not throwing the kitchen sink at teams, but at 1-1, there should have been more positive substitutions or changes coming on. Even at 1-0, you can't just sit on a 1-0 for half an hour against a side who probably should have been 2 or 3-0 up at half time. They're going to get chances. We're going to give them chances, that's for sure. And we did.
Looking at our results, so in the past 10 games, 2 victories, 4 draws, 4 defeats. 3 of those 4 defeats coming at home. And 1 victory apiece at home and away against Preston and Huddersfield, both 2-1 scorelines. But then, as you've mentioned beforehand, the games where we haven't picked up points, Sheffield Wednesday at home, Wickham at home, Coventry at home, basically, Luton away, Millwall at home, Barnsley at home. Games that especially Barnsley, Wickham from 1-0 up, we should be taking 6 points out of 6. And we've come away from those 2 games with no points. Coventry, Dukey had the chance to win us the games. We probably should have come away with all 3 there. Millwall wasn't a great game by any stretch, but you look at the way the game panned out, and hindsight tells you, obviously, you just need 1 chance. 1 goal would clearly have been enough on the day. But it's just typical Birmingham City, isn't it? The way these results panned out, they're also predictable.
I think, and we were talking to Paul Robinson when we were the other night, and that's one thing that came out, was it? And all the supporters are saying it as well, and everyone's saying it. And is the change of shape and the constant meddling with the formation, and playing. I personally, like I said earlier, with Pedersen and Colin, players out of position that are not comfortable with how where they're being asked to play, the job that they're being asked to do, and I think we just need to go back to basics. We really do, like we've done in the past. We really need to just go back to playing a solid formation consistently on a weekly basis, and see where that takes us.
A couple of points you've mentioned there lead me on to something else I wanted to discuss on this episode, which is Karanka's comments over the past few days, starting with the game, or after the game on Tuesday night, So after Barnsley on Tuesday, when talking about if it's hard to lift the confidence of the players, he said it's on the players. Now is when they have to do that step forward to show that Birmingham City is not this team, but Birmingham City is the team which started the season. It's more on them than us because as a coach, we give them every single thing. If they lack confidence, then I just don't know. But I'm confident and completely convinced they will turn it around.
So then that to me tells me that it's, he is at a loss. Well, to why they're losing confidence. He
doesn't understand. Obviously, he's not seeing anything on the training ground which suggests that these sort of capitulations are going to happen. There's no sort of inkling. It just happens in the 90 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. So he's basically absolving himself from, he's saying it's not his fault. If certain players are losing confidence, it's down to them.
You mentioned the formation. Do you think the players are unsettled by the change of shape? To which Karanka said, maybe yes, but I can't put this as an excuse because 1 month ago we changed the shape and we beat Preston. We changed the shape again and we beat Huddersfield, and we changed the shape every 2 or 3 days. We won those games when I was changing shape, and now we cannot just say that we are losing games because of the change in shape.
We changed shape. We had one good game against Preston. Let's be honest. I don't think we had a particularly good game against Huddersfield. We were fortunate, really fortunate in that game. So pointing to games where, barring the Preston game, which is the best performance of the season so far, let's bear in mind that this is a Preston side that we beat who had lost every single home game so far previously this season before we arrived. They couldn't hit a barn door at home. And they could have squeezed out a 2-2 at the end. So, and the Huddersfield game could have seesawed it either way. So, I don't take his point there.
I was asked about the penalty. And he said, you don't need to write about the penalty. We had to control this game. We had to be stronger and do much better things than sit here and complain about a penalty. Fair point. We shouldn't have been in a position where we're complaining about how the penalty changed the game. We should have really took it to Barnsley from 1-0 up, as we've already said. Mm-hmm. But, again, hindsight.
Yeah, of course. And, he's got nothing to complain about with the penalty. It was just poor defending at the end of the day. And we could have given away a penalty in the first half. So, I think, we were well beaten Tuesday night, well beaten. Barnsley could have had 3 or 4, even by half time.
And then moving on to his press conference today then. So his first question to him was, are you angry after the Barnsley game? To which he responded, yes, because it's hard to remember a performance as bad as that in my 7 years as a coach.
Yeah, it was bad. He's not wrong.
The game against Barnsley was the opposite from Millwall, with the ball and without the ball. I was more than angry and I'm more than just disappointed. I am very frustrated.
I think,
so again, it points to the fact he cannot pinpoint the problems in the performance. He can't understand why these problems are happening.
I've got sympathy for him because certain players are clearly not performing, and there's players there that I don't think are up to standard for the system that he wants to play. Unfortunately, he's going to have to find a system that suits the players that we've got better. Otherwise, it's going to be a slippery slope from here on in.
I mean, this just points to, again, and obviously Paul Robinson mentioned it when we spoke to him the other night, that it's more than just a manager coming in and changing it. There is something wrong at the club. There's not enough football people at the club, is what Robbo said. This goes beyond Karanka. This problem has been going on for years. Every time we've had a manager that looked like they was going to stabilise things, we sacked them anyway. with Rowett and then Monk. So I think there's only so much Karanka can do at this point, at this stage. It's difficult to still, for me, to point blame at Karanka. I don't think there's any need at the minute to point fingers at him. He's doing what he can. But I think there's something rotten within that club still. And you can paper over cracks with the appointment of Karanka, with the fact we've made some shrewd signings. Halilovic on a free could turn out to be a great deal. Aleko was a bargain. Etheridge was a bargain. But you're just papering over cracks. It doesn't mean that anything's changed at the club. Dong's still there. He's still probably calling shots behind the scenes. We don't know. And as people have pointed out on Twitter, the players wouldn't be getting away with these sort of performances if fans were in the stadium. The board wouldn't be getting away with it if there was fans in the stadium, but they're not, so they're living a charmed life. Ultimately. One of his questions, fans are disappointed. What message would you send to them? And he said, keep the confidence in this group of players. We are doing everything we can to improve. I think everybody could feel the improvement before the international break. Keep believing in this group of players because they are the first ones who want to improve. I know it's frustrating, and I said a few weeks ago that if I was one of the fans, I would have the same frustration. We can't forget that last season was not as good as everybody was expecting. When you have that bad run and close to get relegated, now we're trying to change a few things. It is time to keep together, to believe in this group and this project, because I am more than convinced that we're going to be good and going to be successful given time.
So yeah, time. Yeah, I think Karanka is just going to need time, and he's just going to need a hell of a lot of patience by the looks of it.
Yeah, I mean, another point that was asked was about San Jose, who was already spoke about. So that he was asked if Mikel San Jose looked tired to Karanka, and his answer was, I think it's his body language. His body language is the same as when he started playing against Huddersfield. We've been speaking with him and members of the staff. He feels good. He doesn't feel tired. Again, I think it's just his body language. He was then asked, are you happy with his performances so far? To which he said, no. And I think he's the first one who is not happy with the performances, especially when he has shown already in bits how good he was. He's really a really important player for us, and a top player like he is. He knows he is not his best. But what do you read into them comments, really? Is it saying much?
It's a frustration there, isn't there? He's got players that he's brought in. He's personally brought into the club that are, not quite performing for him. Like I said earlier, you've got a player that's come from La Liga. He's not been playing, full 90 minutes for a long time. He's now being asked to come into a quite physically demanding league now. And I've got sympathy for him. Yeah, he was thrown in, struck pretty much straight away, wasn't he, against Norwich when he had to come on at the end of the game. And from then on in, he's been pretty much either centre-back or central defensive midfield. I think it's time for him to have a rest, 100%. I think he's got to be pulled out the side for Saturday, and give someone else a game, because otherwise, it's not. We want players like that to be, to have fresh legs. You've got to remember he's nearly 32 now, so it's coming towards the end of his career.
Well, that leads you to think that Sunjic will be back in the starting lineup on Saturday, possibly in place of San Jose. Then, question is then, who do you partner Sunjic with?
Well, you got Kifton Beld on the bench, so you could slot him straight into the side if you want someone to carry the ball a little bit more. He's got Gary Gardner that he could slot in next to San Jose. It really depends how he wants to play, whether he wants to persist with this 5 at the back system, or whether he wants to revert back to 4 at the back, which I really hope that he does. And obviously another player that we saw the other night, he's only played a couple of games so far, is Clark Sultan. I think he's another player that potentially might need to be dropped. Doesn't look quite ready to me. Just come back from injury. I personally wouldn't play him on Saturday either.
Yeah, I mean, post lockdown last season, in those 9-10 games that we had, Clark sort of just looked like his mind was already at being back at Chelsea. He didn't seem up for the necessary fight that we needed to stay up. Obviously now he's back. He's had an injury which he's coming back from, but again, I don't think we've really seen the Clark sort of that Blues fans are crying out for us to re-sign this season. And maybe another spell out of the side just to kind of recuperate and continue working on his fitness could do him well. Begs the question, leaves Roberts, Friend and Dean, which obviously in turn means that your mate Pedersen will probably be playing left wing back if we go with the 5.
Yeah,
so it's difficult questions.
I think if he goes back to 4 at the back, he'll. I'm hoping he'll keep Pedersen as a left back. He'll bring Friend in next to Dean, who I think they paired up quite well earlier in the season, and keep Colin at right back, and then play the 2 defensive midfielders in front of them, and then play the 3 attackers with the lone striker, and then see how it goes. He was billed as a manager that plays 4-2-3-1 before he came in, and I think a lot of the sports just want to see it now. We just want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, arguably you'd say he's signed players to play 4-2-3-1 as well. The players that have come through the door, there's a lot of number 10s. Terrell, Halilovic, McGree. You had Lecco who can go out wide. Bella was already there. Sanchez on the wings. San Jose to sit in the middle. So the players are there to play the 4-2-3-1. But for whatever reason, at the minute, it seems that he still hasn't decided whether that's going to be the case. Like you say, he knows it as a manager and as a coach. And that's got to be, you stick with the tried and tested, drill it into them. And I think that's possibly how we've got to go forward now.
I think so. I don't see the point in playing 5 at the back if we're conceding 2 at home to Barnsley. What's the point? I'd rather us play 4 at the back. If we're going to concede goals, then to sides. I'm not being disrespectful to Barnsley because they're on a good run and they've clearly brought in a good coach and they're clearly they're drilled and they know what they're doing. But we came under a lot of pressure in that game. So what's the point in playing 5 at the back? Let's revert back to 4 at the back. Let's have a go at some sides. We don't have to go gung ho like we were discussing off air. We don't have to start throwing the kitchen sink at teams, leaving ourselves open. But we need to get the players that we've got in the final third attacking areas, contributing and actually affecting the game in the areas that we want them to be affecting the game. And that's not on the halfway line and in our own halves for the majority of the game.
Well, that's one point as well, is people obviously thought it's going to be a 4 at the back at home and 5 at the back away from home sort of situation until then you see again 5 at the back against Barnsley. And you just think to yourself, should we really be having to adapt our tactics to other teams when we're at home, or should we be playing our own game and taking control of the games at home? Arguably, yes, some teams, your likes of Norwich and Bournemouth who've just come down and obviously still have Premier League squads, understandable. But Barnsley at home, we shouldn't be bowing down to Barnsley's tactical setup. We should be stamping our authority on the game.
No, and I think sometimes when you play 5 at the back, that allows the opposition to assert their authority and what they want to do on the game. And when you're at home, you should be doing that. So, unless you've got extremely dangerous wing backs, talented wing backs that can get up and down the pitch, can provide assists, they can score goals. Absolutely, let's play wing backs. Let's play 3 at the back. But we haven't. We've got a left wing back that can't pass, can't defend. We've got a right back who, okay, apart from the assist for Hogan's goal, I'm not convinced. His distribution is awful at times. his positional sense is all over the place. And we need to revert back to the positions that they know best, which is right back and left back. But like you just touched on, the mentality of the side, when you're playing at home, Barnsley turning up at St Andrews and they're seeing the team sheet and they're thinking they're playing five at the back at home. They're thinking, all right, let's press them high, let's get into their faces. And at the end, as we saw, the amount of times they turned the ball over, they closed us down. They didn't allow us to play the ball out. They got so much joy in the end. It was really frustrating to watch, really frustrating. And I've got a bad feeling he's going to continue playing the five at the back on Saturday, because Bristol City are second and they're flying at the moment.
Well, you look at teams that have played five at the back in the Championship in recent years and in general and been successful. Wolves is the main one that springs to mind straight away. But even when they played with five at the back, they had a set system. You knew what every single player on that pitch was doing. You still do now when they play it. You know that Jimenez is the focal point up front. You have the two wingers that play off him. You have the two in midfield that sit and control the pace in Neves, Moutinho, Dendoncker, whoever else tucks in there. The three at the back, they're solid. Cody, Bolly and whoever else sits in there. But you know that every single one of them players knows what their task is as well. Whereas you look at our five at the back and even up to Barnsley on Tuesday night, as we've already said, I don't think a single one of them player out there actually knew where they was meant to actually be sitting at certain points in the game and what they were supposed to be doing. And you can't play a five at the back system successfully, or any system successfully, and have players out there that don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. I think you alluded to Wolves there. The quality is not even, you can't compare the quality. The level of players that Wolves brought in that season in the Championship, like we're saying, Willy Boley, Neves, they had Doherty at right wing back, Connor Cody. They had, I think Ruddy in goal. They just had such a strong spine to the side. They were just, too good for the Championship. And I think if you're going to play five at the back, like I said, you've got to have versatile players that are. I sound like a broken record. I think at the end of the day, we just don't have the personnel to play five at the back. If we can play five at the back, if you just want to defend and park the bus, yes, we have got five at the back. We have got five defenders that you can play, and you can park the bus. But we do not have five defensive players to play a counter-attacking style, game. So it's just, that's my opinion, and I think it's the opinion of most supporters now that we just want to see a system that suits the players, and that system played on a continuous basis.
Well, on that note, we will leave that there for this episode. I'm glad you haven't said that the knives are out.
Well, yeah. I mean, they could be, more so at Christmas if we're in the bottom three. And let's be honest, it could become a reality, the way they're playing at the moment. But let's hope not.
Yeah, hopefully not. Don't jinx it. Well, that's all we've got time for on this episode. Thank you for joining me on it. Thank you for listening at home. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Get us your questions and your points on the socials. Again, as always, at Blues Focus Pod. And until then, thanks for watching.